The sound of a 90-pound Akita knocking a toddler to the floor is unmistakable. Jessica heard it from the kitchen. That heavy, dull thud that makes every parent's blood stop. She dropped the dish towel and ran. Titan had Mason pinned. The toddler was flat on the carpet, face up. The dog's massive head lowered directly over the child's face. Mason was crying, not screaming, just that confused, frightened cry that meant something hurt. But nothing was broken yet. Titan, no. Jessica grabbed the dog's collar and pulled hard. Titan resisted. For the first time since they'd brought him home 3 years ago, he didn't obey immediately. His body was rigid. His eyes stayed locked on Mason. She pulled harder. The dog finally stepped back, but slowly, reluctantly. Mason sat up, tears streaming, reaching for Jessica. No visible injuries, no blood, just scared. But that sound, that thud, that had been real. She scooped Mason up and carried the toddler to the couch, heart still racing. Titan stood exactly where she'd pulled him, staring at them both. His tail wasn't wagging. His ears were forward, alert, not guilty, not ashamed, just watching. When David got home that evening, Jessica was still shaken. She explained what happened, the sound, the way Titan had Mason on the floor, the way he wouldn't move when she called him. David knelt down and checked Mason carefully. No bruises, no bumps. The toddler was already playing again, completely fine. But Jessica wasn't fine. "He's never done anything like that," David said. "I know. That's what scares me." David looked at Titan. The dog sat in the corner of the living room, eyes moving between David and Mason. Calm, steady. Maybe it was an accident. Maybe Mason startled him. Jessica shook her head. It didn't feel like an accident. It felt deliberate. That night, they kept Titan in the laundry room while Mason slept. It felt wrong. He'd never been locked away before, but Jessica couldn't shake the image of that moment, the weight of the dog on top of their child. The next morning, it happened again. Jessica was changing Mason's diaper when Titan came into the nursery. He walked directly to the changing table and pressed his nose against Mason's face, not sniffing, pressing. "Titan, back." She said it louder. "Titan, back. Now." She physically pushed him away. He took 2 steps back, then immediately moved forward again, nose going straight to Mason's mouth. Jessica's patience snapped. "Out. Now." Titan finally left, but only after she raised her voice to a level that made Mason start crying. That afternoon, Jessica called the vet. The vet listened carefully, asked questions. How old was Titan? Had there been any other behavior changes? Any aggression toward other people? No, just Mason. The vet was quiet for a moment, then said, "It might be stress. Sometimes dogs react unpredictably when there's a baby in the house, especially if they were used to being the center of attention." Jessica thanked her and hung up. By that evening, she'd made the decision. Titan couldn't stay. David didn't want to believe it. He'd raised Titan from a puppy, trained him, trusted him. But he'd also seen the fear in Jessica's face. He'd heard the description of that moment, the dog on top of their child, refusing to move. They agreed to call a rescue organization in the morning. That night, Titan slept in the garage. Jessica lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. She felt guilty. She felt scared. She felt like she was betraying a family member. But every time she closed her eyes, she saw Titan's head hovering over Mason's face, and her chest tightened. At 2:47 a.m., the baby monitor lit up. Mason was crying. Not the usual fussy cry. Something else. A strange, weak sound. Jessica sat up immediately and grabbed her phone. The video feed showed Mason in the crib, barely moving. She ran. David was right behind her. When they opened the nursery door, Titan was already inside. He'd somehow gotten out of the garage, somehow made it through the house, somehow opened the nursery door, or it hadn't latched. He was standing on his back legs, front paws on the crib rail, nose pressed against Mason's face. Titan, get back! David grabbed the dog and pulled him away. Jessica reached into the crib and lifted Mason. The toddler's skin was pale, cold. The crying had stopped. Something's wrong. They called 911. The paramedics arrived in 6 minutes. One of them took Mason from Jessica's arms, checked vitals, asked rapid-fire questions. When did this start? Any fever? Any vomiting? Any known allergies? The second paramedic noticed Titan. He was standing in the hallway, completely still, eyes fixed on Mason. Has the dog been acting strange? Jessica nodded, barely able to speak. Yes, for 2 days. The paramedic looked at Mason again, looked at Titan, then looked at Jessica. We need to get to the hospital, now. At the ER, a doctor examined Mason thoroughly. Blood tests, monitoring, questions. Then she came back into the room with a printout and a very serious expression. Your Mason's airway was partially blocked, the doctor continued, her voice calm but firm. Another 8 minutes, and we would be having a very different conversation. What made you bring Mim in tonight? Jessica explained the crying, the monitor, the pale skin. The doctor nodded slowly. And the dog. Jessica looked at David. He looked back at her. He wouldn't leave Mason alone, Jessica said quietly. For 2 days. We thought he was being aggressive. Dogs can detect breathing obstruction before we can. It's documented. The change in scent, in breath chemistry. They pick it up long before symptoms are visible to us. Jessica sat down. Titan knew. He was trying to tell you. When they brought Mason home 3 days later, Titan was waiting by the door. Jessica knelt down and put her arms around his neck. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. Titan exhaled slowly, leaning into her. That night, Mason slept in the crib. Titan slept on the floor beside it. No one asked him to. He just did.